Fiona, welcome to the interview. Can you introduce yourself?
My name's Fiona. I'm going into my third year at McGill. I am majoring in linguistics and minoring in both psychology and classics.
Can you talk about your high school background?
So I did public high school in Ontario and I did the French immersion program, so quite a lot of the classes were in French. Yeah, I had no credits coming into McGill. It was just, I had to start as a U0.
Can you briefly describe what you study in your major?
Yeah, so I study linguistics, which is like the scientific study of language. So it's kind of complicated to explain, but it's just like all aspects of language. So we could study anything from like how we produce sounds, like what parts of our mouth makes different sounds, to like how grammar functions and like how kids learn language. So it really does like encompass a lot, honestly, but basically anything language related and kind of looking at the science behind it and like patterns that exist with language.
Can you describe how your program is built?
It's 36 credits, and I think there's like 18 mandatory credits, so I think it's like 6 classes, and then the rest are, you can just choose from any linguistics classes, and you need a certain amount at the 400, 500 level. So once you get, and oftentimes you have to do most of the required courses before you're able to do the electives, because they're prerequisites for the electives. But yeah.
Can you name one thing you like and one thing you dislike about your major?
I really find the content really interesting, so that's probably my favorite part about linguistics. And it's also quite niche and specific, so I find you really can get to know the people in your major, and it's just like a cool specific topic to know a lot about. So I think that would be my favorite part, just the content. But then my least favorite thing, I feel like it's going against what I just said, but the required courses are quite intense, and they're very different. So you're kind of asked to do a lot of different sorts of things. Like I think in other majors, a lot of the courses are similar, or there's like lots of overlap between the required courses, but I find in linguistics, each course is kind of its own complete thing. So it kind of just happens that you enjoy and are better at certain topics and then struggle more with different topics, and that's kind of just bound to happen. But I would say that's kind of something I struggle with, is that you're kind of forced to take these courses, and some of them you find really easy and some of them you find really hard, and they're all really different. So I could say that's sort of a struggle.
Can you talk about the load of homework? So maybe how it's spread out, what kind of homework do you have?
So the homework in linguistics is a lot of problem solving type assignments. So you get a lot of problem set assignments, I would say, which is kind of universal in all linguistics classes. And they're often very application based. So rather than kind of just memorizing a ton of stuff from lectures and for reproducing it, they kind of ask you to look at new sorts of things you might have not seen and apply the skills you learned to new data or new things. So I would say linguistics is a lot of application of skills, and also defending your argument. It's not always about being completely correct, but kind of using all the stuff you've learned to sort of look at new things. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it's definitely a trend I've noticed with Ling classes.
If you have any, what's the biggest regret you have study-wise?
I wish I kind of learned earlier that you have to adapt how you study to each class depending on the class. You can't, it's not really one method works for all classes, which I think I struggled with a lot in my first year. I sort of tried to do the same methods for each class. And then it kind of just doesn't work because a lot of classes function really differently. So I would say once I learned how to kind of change the way I study depending on the type of class, that helped a lot. And then you waste you waste less time doing it that way. So I would say if I had learned that earlier, it would have been easier.
Do you find it hard to balance school and your social life?
Not really. I would say the semesters definitely fluctuate in terms of busyness, for sure. There's periods of time where it's definitely hard to balance everything you want to do. Obviously during midterm season and exam season, I kind of hibernate and don't speak to anyone. But I would say generally during the semester, it's not hard, especially, it kind of keeps you sane. So I don't find it too challenging during the semester.
What do you plan on doing after this degree? Do you want to continue in the same direction or maybe not?
I hope to go to grad school for speech therapy after my undergraduate degree. Linguistics is a really common undergraduate program if you want to go into that. Same with psychology, so I'm minoring in psych and majoring in linguistics, which is a common combination to go into speech therapy, kind of continuing in the same direction.
Why did you choose this program and why did you choose McGill?
I honestly chose linguistics mainly to pursue speech therapy because, yeah, that kind of was like the goal. And then it was like researching programs that you take to become a speech therapist, and linguistics was one of them. And now I've like really fallen in love with it, so I'm really glad I made that choice. And then for McGill's arts faculty is really good compared to some other schools in Canada that really kind of just prioritize the science and engineering program. So yeah, McGill's like reputation of their arts program really appealed to me, and also just I love Montreal and the city. It's really great.
Was it hard to adjust to university life and to your classes?
Yes, I took a gap year after high school, so I was coming off of a year of like no school. So I would say just adjusting to like doing school again was was an adjustment for sure. But I would say like you kind of do get into the swing of things pretty quickly. And I also decided to only do 4 classes my first semester instead of 5, which I think helped a lot because yeah, just less to think, less to manage, and like it makes it kind of an easier transition. So I would say like the first little bit was definitely challenging, but it was okay.
If you can describe it, how is the overall vibe in your classes?
I think the vibe in linguistics classes are great.
Vibes are awesome.
Great vibe. Because the classes get smaller the higher up you go. So like the 200 level linguistics classes are quite large, but then they get smaller. And I think when they get smaller, it's much better vibe because you can kind of talk to people more and the professor interacts with you more. I would say the vibe in linguistics is really good. There's also like participation and discussion, which is awesome. I'm also doing a psych minor, and psych classes are really different because they're really large, most of them, especially I'm only in like 200 and 300 level psych classes so far, which are like really big. Different vibe, like less participation, less, you don't really talk to the prof. It's definitely larger lectures, so different vibe. And then I'm also in the classics, which are, most of my classics classes are Latin classes, so that's really small, like 20 people max. So yeah, it's kind of the opposite of psych. It's like you really know everyone, you really know the prof. And I would prefer that sort of size, but yeah, vibes are good.
Okay, well, that's it for the interview. Thank you so much, Fiona.
You're welcome.